Hello, I'm Jarg, and welcome back to my Basic Beginner's Guide to Terraria. Last time, we actually just finished off fighting all three mechanical bosses, and I don't know how obvious this is going to be right now, but there's a bit of a time jump I've had going on right now. I've recorded a bit further ahead, and I am going to be using my footage from before, but before I go on to that footage, I want to just talk about what we want to do now that the mechanical bosses are defeated. Well, there's a couple of things. One of the first things I want us to do is go see a very specific NPC. I talked about them the other day, however, I didn't actually show them off. So, my character is all the way over here in the jungle, and I talked about them before. They are the steampunk. So, they have a couple of different things going on with them, but the most important thing that they got, as I mentioned before, is this. The Clantameter? However you want to call it. But this thing creates and destroys biomes when sprayed. Very, very useful. It uses a code solution. It's expensive, but, I mean, for what it does, it's very useful. So you buy that, you buy Solution, which is essentially the ammo. I already have this. And, in a way, this can destroy the Hollow, the Corruption, and the Crimson. So I've actually had this for a while. Decided about just showing off what I had before, but decided against it. So as we go down here a little bit, you see this stuff right over here. That's the corruption. Just automatically gets rid of it. If you plan on trying to completely remove the corruption, crimson, and the hollow in your world, this is going to be your best way of doing it. I'm going to tell you right now, though, it's going to be costly. Like, I've only gone so far, I had 60 and I'm down to 25. So, yeah, if you're planning on doing this, get ready to spend money from the bank. But considering how useful it is, it's a great thing to have, and I highly recommend it for doing things like what I got down here, trying to do my little underground house biome. Because before this corrupted, and now, well, it's still corrupted because, oops, there's more than just what I had. But in theory, you could use that to try and get rid of stuff. And as a matter of fact, I feel like you might want to do that because eventually, if you go up on the surface, which if I put on my, where is it? I think it's in front of you. My depth, anything above level 0, which is considered the surface, because anything above that is considered underground. But yes, we want to build on the surface a blue mushroom biome. Using mud and blue mushroom seeds, we can make a blue mushroom biome, and with a blue mushroom biome and a house, we can get this guy to spawn, the truffle. Now this guy, as far as I can tell, can only spawn... He can spawn as early as hard mode begins. However, this guy is going to be most useful for after you defeat the next boss out in the jungle. You actually see his most important thing, but I'm not going to talk about that yet. So this guy, depending on your playstyle, is going to be very useful. I highly recommend having him here. And again, I wanted to have the... I'm just going to call it the Claymator, even though that's not it. I wanted to have the Claymator just to get rid of the corruption and have this guy out here. But be warned, if you have the green solution alongside this, it turns mud into jungle. So if I was to use that right here, I would get rid of the blue mushroom biome and put in a jungle biome. So yeah, I think that's everything I want to talk about right now in terms of, before I move over to the footage that I already have recorded. And we're going to be talking about a couple of things. So, hopefully, I can just snap my fingers and we can move right on over to the Dungeon Defender stuff. Alright, so, once one of the mechanical bosses are defeated, we actually get the Dungeon Defender stuff to go from rank 1, which was what we got from starting the game, and we're now what I would call rank 2 or level 2, whatever you want to call it. So, there's going to be new items and armor that can be bought from the Dungeon Nero, the bartender, I call him the bartender, as well as new enemies and more waves when we actually decide to do the Dungeon Defender thing. Now, again, this is completely optional. It's up to you to decide whether or not you want to do this. I did it just to get out of the way, and I had this up in the upper areas. I believe it was space is what it's considered. However, I was having issues with harpies attacking me and the wyvern attacking me, so I moved it down a little bit. I highly recommend bringing in the ballista is not a bad one, but the aura staff is what I just really love that one. Just the constant damage just happening all the time. Very useful. As well as, I would say, the armor set, if I can remember what it's called. The Egyptian-looking one that allows you to have a lot of summons, as well as if you double-tap the down button, will cause a... What's the word I'm looking for? A tornado to appear. The Forbidden series, that's what it's called. Minions, again, just very good. That Forbidden series, the double tap, giving the tornado, makes flying enemies a joke because they just run right into it. So, yeah, just give it some time and you can win it. I want to see you get, if you can accomplish all the waves, you can get 25 medals for doing it. And, well, the weapons now cost 15 medals, so they're a bit more pricey, but, like, the Aura Rod, the first one, did 4 summoning damage, while as the Arcane... Lightning Arcane does 11, so you do get more damage out of it. Also, the fact that the bartender will sell you some different clothing now. Each one, I believe, is 15 medals a piece, so 45 for an entire set. Between the Squire, the Apprentice, the Huntress, and the Monk, each with their own special stats and whatnot. I don't feel like buying all of them. I feel like that's going a bit too far, so I'm not going to worry about them right now. But I feel like that's everything we need to talk about, at least when it comes to the Dungeons and Defenders thing, other than just getting all the waves finished. Alright, so moving on to what is probably the most important thing for us right now, is that upon defeating the third mechanical boss, we were told that we were hearing a sound coming from the jungle. Now, I kind of said this before, there's going to be a new boss that can be fought out here. However, before we do that, we want to get ourselves ready for a couple of different ways. Now, before we do anything else, if you go into the jungle biome and you happen to see what looks like a glowing pink flower, be careful. You can swing your sword at it, no problem, but do not hit it with your pick. If you try to pick at it like it is a metal ore, you will break the plant and that will cause the boss to spawn. So, be careful about it. So, as we're going to try and get ourselves ready to fight the boss, I highly recommend an arena, which is something I recommended back when we were fighting Queen Bee, but I recommend making it much bigger. And at this point, having things like that hollow pickaxe that we can make, it's honestly pretty easy just to dig out an area and get everything more or less settled. And depending on how you want to do things afterwards, can, well, decide how you want to do it. I, for example, am insane, so I decided I want to dig out the area, wall it off, platform it up, and I decided to put in a nice flowery background that I bought straight from the Dryad. This is to help prevent monster spawns and makes this arena my own. This did take a bit of time, but I mean, it wasn't too awful. It was a great way of making money, as well as getting a couple of items, I will not lie. As a matter of fact, there is one particular enemy, depending on what you want, that can drop you an item extremely rarely. They are the giant tortoises, and rarely you have a chance of getting a total shell. If you want to make the almost set that you can make from the total shell, you're going to need 3 of them. Then if you want to get everything, you're going to need 4, but you need at least 3 to get the almost set. But I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself, because in the jungle, there are 2 new things available to us. Technically, one of them was available before, we just couldn't do anything with it. That being chlorophyte ore. Now, this stuff spawns in the jungle. We can only start to dig it up after we get ourselves a hollow pickaxe. So, yeah, we do have to fight the 3 bosses and get the soul of fright, might, and sight to do that. But once we do that, we can get chlorophyte ore, which can be, and might actually be, one of the best things you can get. Chlorophyte ore works very different from any other metal in the game. Chlorophyte ore, if put next to mud, can actually expand. It essentially turns the mud into chlorophyte ore, meaning you can just keep on getting more chlorophyte ore. Now, there is a limit to how much ore can be in a set radius, but this does mean that you could use the chlorophyte ore, combine it with mud, and essentially make yourself a chlorophyte farm. And if you're going to say go for a gun build, I highly recommend it, because I believe it's 5 things of chlorophyte ore that makes you 1 chlorophyte bar, but I believe 1 chlorophyte bar can make you, let's say, 100 chlorophyte bullets. Might be more, might be less, but those bullets are homing. You do not even have to aim. The bullet will just go straight, targeting the closest enemy it can get. Great bullet for any gun that you can get in the game. I would highly recommend something that has a bit more damage than, say, the Mini Shark. But I mean, sorry, yeah, Mega Shark. But I mean, with the speed, and if you have anything that can actually save ammo, it probably can just be fine. So that's the first thing we can do. The second thing we can find out here are some hot plants. And I highly, highly recommend that if you have the... I highly recommend that if you have either the metal detector or its upgrade, the goblin tech, you have that on and you have the treasures put on. Now, for the most part, the treasures are just going to show you where you can find chlorophyte, like, hey, chlorophyte's around. Which, I mean, yeah, in the underground jungle, that's going to be everywhere. However, it can also tell you if there is one of those hot plants around, and you're going to want to try and find 21 of them. Now, I'm playing on a small world, so I don't have the most amount of space. However, I did find enough to actually get myself to 21 without having to, like, go to another world or trying to grind or anything like that. It just took a bit of time, but it is highly doable. So we want 20 to essentially increase our life. Each hot plant will increase our life by an extra 5. So with 20 of them, we can get our max health going from 400 to 500, as well as the fact that we can actually throw one of them into a pool of shimmer, and I can't remember what it's called, but we throw the one into this thing of shimmer, it comes back out, and actually increases our defense. I want to say by 3. So it's a free 3 defense increase. So, not too bad. So, if we do all that, we can make ourselves some chlorophyte armor, which, I'm not gonna lie, I wasn't too keen on the idea of making the chlorophyte armor until I made it, and I don't know. I think the chlorophyte armor for me might be better off than my frost armor that I have on. But I don't know. I could just maybe looking at things wrong. But actually, the bones that you get from chlorophyte, I think, might actually be worth it. Now, this is something important, and let me actually go back over to the live footage. So, chlorophyte, when you have the entire set equipped, actually causes the armor set to cause this little crystal to spawn above, and I thought enemies weren't going to spawn here. Oops. Either way, this little thing will do some attacking on its own, meaning you don't have to be completely accurate, and it does seem to go through blocks. So, another little advantage. If you actually look, I put on the melee one. So I have 55 defense, that's considering what I got, plus the extra defense thing. And yeah, some of the powerful leaf crystals to shoot nearby enemy, but also reduces damage by 5%. That damage reduction may not seem much, but I mean, any damage reduction can definitely help. And look at this thing does a good amount of damage on its own. So that's without me doing anything, and that's without me having any minions. So this is the one armor set we can do by having chlorophyte. However, again, I talked about other armor sets that we can do. There is one more armor set we can make right now, but it's going to require a good amount of chlorophyte, especially if you made, or trying to make the armor set combined with all the masks. I honestly am not sure if the other masks are going to be worth it, but let me just go back to my base for a second. So, as I was saying before, total shells, which we can get from fighting the giant tortoises, can make us total armor, which is a very, very defensive armor. As a matter of fact, I already have it. Again, I did a lot of stuff off camera. So if I just put this off for a second, my chlorophyte armor gives me 55 defense, compared to this total armor, putting me up to 69. It is very defensive. With the set armor bonus, making it that any enemies that attack me will receive damage back to themselves, as well as we have an even greater damage reduction. However, total armor has another thing. As we actually look into the description, enemies are more likely to target you. This is actually something that I would say is very useful in a multiplayer setting, as having somebody that takes aggro can be extremely useful, coming from personal experience. Having one person that gets targeted, instead of having enemies that just keep going back and forth, can honestly make a boss fight so much easier. Again, speaking from personal experience, I did an expert mode with me and another guy. We kept having trouble with the upcoming boss, but again, that was expert mode. Eventually, I put on total armor because I'm like, I want the defense. He put on something else, and we went from struggling to defeat the boss to defeating the boss, no problem. So again, having one person that just takes the aggro away from the rest of the team can be highly, highly useful. I highly recommend it. But I think that's about it for right now that I can talk about before we get ourselves into the boss fight. So again, try to get your health maxed up to 500 if you can. Get yourself a proper arena set up and ready to go, and get ready to fight the boss. Alright, so I'm not gonna lie, I got very lucky with some of the spawning placements of the flowers that spawn the boss. You might not always get lucky, but let's just get this started. So right after you click on the flower itself, the enemy will, well, the boss, Plantera, will spawn. Now, when it spawns, be very careful, especially if you're gonna try and lure it to your battle arena, because if you get too far away from it, it will despawn. Very similar to what happened to me back in like episode 5 or 6 with the worm. If you're gonna try and lure it to a place, take it slowly. The boss does not move as fast as other bosses. This is also why I highly recommend an arena. Now, this boss, kind of like the Eye of Cthulhu, actually has 2 phases. For the most part, I would say, if you got an arena like I do, try to just circle around it. Now, for my setup, I am using a Yeltis that I got from fighting enemies down in the jungle, alongside a Fiery Gauntlet, which increases knockback, not important, inflicts fire damage, which is very nice, increases my melee damage and speed, auto-swing, but I don't need that, increases the size of my weapon, could be useful. The Yo-Yo Bag, which gives me the long range of the rope, the extra yo-yo, as well as the counterweight, so very useful. Wings and the boots, so I have both speed and flight, as well as the magnoluminescence, whatever I made back earlier on, that increases my movement speed as well as gives me light. For the most part, I'm not too worried about this boss. I just need to keep my distance, keep attacking it, and hopefully within time do enough damage to bring it down. Also, if you did decide to do some of the barkeeper stuff, I mean, bringing in a ballista, the mine, or anything like that could be highly useful. I don't recommend the aura staff though for this. At least not with my setup, because it will be blocked by the platforms. But just keep on fighting them, and eventually Plantera will go down. Matter of fact, with my setup with the chlorophytes, I beat Plantera every time. I didn't die once, I beat him 4 times. So yeah, just keep on going, and with Plantera's defeat, however, we actually get a announcement that we actually hear some strange sounds coming from the dungeon. However, I don't want to go to the dungeon right now. Well, that's a lie. Usually, I don't want to go to the dungeon right now, but depending on how you want to do things, you could. So, now with Plantera defeated, every time Plantera is defeated, you get yourself a temple key, which is used to open the jungle temple door. We're going to deal with that next time. Because right now, if we go back out, if you remember, I was talking about the truffle before. If we go talk to the truffle now, he will sell us the auto hammer. How that works is that with the auto hammer, we can combine chlorophyte bars alongside 15 blue mushrooms to make shroomite bars. Shroomite bars can be used to make a couple of different things, such as the shroomite armor. So, just like all the armor sets, there are the greaves, the plate mail, and 3 helmets. However, the helmets are very different. The helmets work that one is used for bows, one is used for guns, and one is used for anything else ranged. So, the shroomite armor, if you are going for a ranger build, highly recommend doing this. Like, it is pretty much specifically made for people using range. Now, say... Okay, so, like, chlorophyte. Jack of all trades, go for whatever you want. Total shell armor, if you're going for melee, great for the defense. If you're going for guns, you're going for the shroomite. However, if you are going for a magic-based build, what you are probably going to go after are known as spectre bars. So, with Plantera defeated, if we go over to the above-ground temple, dungeon, there will be not only new enemies, but sometimes when you kill the enemies, you can essentially find their soul. If you fight their soul and beat it, you will get its ectoplasm, and you can combine ectoplasm with 2 things of chlorophyte bar to get you spec bars. Or spectre bars, however you want to call it. Ghost bars, I'm just going to say. And the ghost bars can be used to make a couple of different things, such as armor. So, just like Anything else, if we talk to the guide, he can actually show us what we can make from this. And just like Shroomite, you can make yourselves a pair of greaves, mail, and a hat, or a helmet. However, there are 2 of them. Also, before I forget, each thing, the Spectrum and the Shroomite, can make you a pickaxe and whatnot. I am gonna say I'm not really worried about that at all. Like, 0 intent. If you want a new / better pickaxe, actually, I don't even think it's really even better. I'm pretty sure the Hollow is the best one you're gonna get, because it works as not only a pickaxe, but also an axe, compared to the other ones that only give you pickaxe power, and, I mean, not much better than that. There's another pickaxe that we can try to get from fighting the next boss in the game, so literally, I don't see any real use to either any of the new pickaxes that you can make. Maybe I'm missing something, but I don't know. I guess if you just care about it, whatever. But, yeah. I'm trying to think. Oh, right, the ghost bars. How that works is that you can make, again, the pants, the armor, and then 2 helmets. Each helmet has something special about it. I want to say the one helmet will increase the damage you do, but also has an added bonus effect that the damage that you do will then do bonus damage afterwards. So it is a highly medic DPS based armor set. Whereas the other one will decrease your medical power. But to counterbalance this, every time you attack an enemy, you'll get so much health back. So essentially it makes you more of a HP sucking tank than anything else. Again, very useful in multiplayer, because if you have someone with, say, the total armor getting attacked all the time, and another person with the healing armor, that tank will be getting hit, taking damage, but you will be essentially healing them for free just from doing your attack. So, I would say it's going to be very dependent on what's going on and what's the situation. It is, however, kind of useless against the final boss. But, by that point, you might have another armor set. And, yeah. I think with that, I think we're good for right now. I think there's nothing else I can really talk about right now. Although, I want to say, I could be wrong, I want to say now that Plantera is defeated, if you wanted to upgrade, say, your Obsidian Shield, you can now combine that with all the other items that are used to make the Ankh Charm, which is the blindfold, the Bezoar, the medical bandage and whatnot to give yourself the Ankh Shield that makes you immune to a lot of debuffs as well as knockback and fire. That's going to be up to you whether or not you want that, but I want to say that's now available to you should you be interested in that. And I want to say that's about it for now. I don't think I'm missing anything. And so, yeah, depending on what you're going for or what you want to do with your armor sets, I highly recommend getting yourself out there and getting yourself set up. If you want to be a jack of all trades, maybe go for chlorophyte. If you want to go for melee DPS, go for turtle. If you want to go for guns, bows, or anything else, Shroomite. And if you want to go for magic, go for Spectre. I have not gone for Spectre. I've not gone for magic this entire game, sadly enough, which is a little sad. Because I really do like some of the magic items of it yet, but I haven't really found anything on my travels that I really like. Alright, so with Plantera defeated, I believe there are a couple of different things that are available to us. I want to say there are technically 3 bosses for us to fight. The one in the underground jungle, through the jungle temple that is required to continue on with the story. A boss that now spawns in the Hollow, but I believe you can fight it in the day and at night, but you're mostly going to fight it at night. And a boss that is very difficult to fight, known as Duke Fishron, but that is going to be a annoying fight to get to. I will try to get some of this stuff recorded and whatnot. Well, I'm going to try and see if I can do Duke Fishron and the other new Hollow boss recorded off camera, just because I don't know what to expect. But I will definitely do the jungle live. So till then, thank you so much for watching. I hope you have yourself a fantastic day and fantastic tomorrow. If there are any questions or concerns, maybe something I didn't talk about, maybe something you didn't understand, please let me know, and I will do my best to answer any questions that you got. Until then, thank you for watching, and have a good one. See ya!